Hi, and welcome to E's Bookshelf. This is a podcast about my bookshelf, which includes historical fiction, realistic fiction, science fiction, fantasy, and mystery books. I'm your host, Alicia Driver. In today's episode, I'll be discussing the book Paper Doll Lina by Robyn Lucas. This book is about domestic violence and romance. This book is important because these issues relate to so many people, and this book educates people and it shows them how to notice domestic violence. I have a love-hate relationship with this book. The abuse starts off as something little and then slowly gets bigger and bigger. It goes from just a few unkind words to bruises and emotional scars. Lina has always dreamed of the perfect marriage and the 50-year wedding anniversary. She is a stay-at-home mom with two incredibly talented and smart children. Her kids created a website that revolves around giving people motivation to exercise. Their website is very popular and has been featured on TV shows and commercials. Yet somehow her husband, David, finds a way to make something good seem bad. He constantly makes the kids feel as though their website is useless and will never amount to anything, and how they shouldn't be putting any time towards the website unless they are receiving something from it, such as money or scholarships or extra credit. Along with that, David verbally abuses Lina, calling her fat, telling her to lose weight, saying she's useless, lazy, and that he shouldn't have married her, and how she would be nothing without him. Slowly, David becomes more demanding. Lina cannot buy anything without David watching her. She cannot go anywhere without having him see her location. She cut off many of her friends because David brainwashed her into believing that her friends were not good friends. This book really speaks to me because I have watched others fall victim to abusive relationships, and it's an important topic. So anyways, David wants another baby, but Lina doesn't want to be pregnant again. David squeezes her arm so hard to the point where she has bruises, and he tells her that she will go to her next IVF appointment if he has to drag her there himself. Then another situation, David wants to be intimate, but Lina says she's tired. David doesn't listen, and he forces himself onto her. And Lina is scared to leave for many reasons, and she doesn't want her kids not to have a father figure. Over time, Lina begins to believe the things that he says. She begins to think that she is nothing without him. She tells herself that she should be grateful someone as successful as David married her. She points out all her flaws and physical insecurities, and she gives in to David. She's desperate to save her marriage, save her kids, but also save herself. She realizes that if she wants to save her kids and save herself, that means she cannot save her marriage. All the while this is happening, Lina is chit-chatting with an interesting friend she made when her kids were featured on a talk show. Only this man is a famous actor. They build a friendship over time, and then it slowly becomes more. While spending time with this man, whose name is Noah, Lina begins to realize how terrible her husband is. She didn't notice the gradual increase in abuse until she spent time with Noah and she saw how gentle and caring he was. Lina assumes that he only wants one thing, but the one thing he wants the most is just to see her smile. Lina begins to think of a plan on how to leave her husband, and one day he smashes her laptop and drags her across the room while she was on FaceTime with Noah, and the police arrive at her door. Only this cop knew David personally. The cop plays favorites and then looks the other way. This book is truly a roller coaster of emotions. Lina finally has a plan to make people believe that her husband is abusive, but her plan almost kills her. She gives David divorce papers, and he becomes angry and violent. He strangled her until she could not breathe. What he doesn't know is that cameras and paparazzi are outside, and they saw the whole thing. Lina wakes up in the hospital. The book ends with David and Lina separated. Lina and her kids are living in a peaceful condo, and Lina is watching TV when she sees Noah promoting a charity that helps women who come from domestic violence. Lina and Noah have not spoken for months due to their lives being full of court issues. her kids, her ex-husband. She has not had room to think about Noah. And now that things are finally starting to fall into place, she decides she has to give her and Noah one last chance. The book ends with Noah running into her at this charity event and then making subtle jokes. Honestly, the entire time while I was reading this book, I was getting so mad. I would be reading this book at work and I wanted to like throw the book across the room because of how angry it made me. Having seen domestic violence myself and then noticing all these clues and then realizing how real it actually is. I later researched the author, and this book is based on her life and her kids. I also started following the author on Instagram, and I noticed that she started an organization called Love Shouldn't Hurt. I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone who is slightly sensitive with this topic because it does get graphic and it can be triggering for some. So it's a great story. Just be warned that it could trigger something if you have experience with this type of issue. And I actually went even further, and I was stalking the author's Instagram, and then I found her kid's website. It turns out it's not a website to encourage people to exercise. If I recall correctly, I believe it's an app. It's an app, actually, basically to, I guess, kind of like an emergency app. Like, you press your button, like you press something on the app, and then it notifies a bunch of people in your contacts that you need help or something. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I also noticed how in the book, Lina's mother was so, oh my goodness. She was telling Lina, like, oh, you should be grateful that someone like David actually is with you. Like, look at this nice house you live in. And it just drove me nuts because it's like this beautiful castle that someone builds for you. It doesn't mean anything if the doors are locked. And honestly, after I finished reading it, my first thought was, I hope her abuser sees this. I hope that her ex-husband reads this. And I hope her mother reads this. Actually, I just searched it, and it turns out that the name of the app is called Not Okay, and it revolves around mental health. So if you want to check it out, definitely do it. But I'd highly recommend this book, especially if you're a woman, and especially if you're a young woman who hasn't had much experience or who hasn't had any experience with a toxic and abusive relationship. I'd highly recommend this to you because not only is it educational, it's also really well written. Like this story has so many ups and downs, but they happen at just the right time. And the way the story was set up, I love it. But if you want to ask me any questions on a future episode, you can email me at aliciadriver@gmail.com. That's ELLYSIADRIVER@gmail.com. Or follow me on Instagram at aliciadriver. Next time, I'll be back with the book The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Also, check out Beyond the Book with Julie on YouTube for author interviews. She was the one who gave me the paper Doll Lina book, and she's the one who gave me The Lost Apothecary. But she interviews authors, and you should totally follow her Instagram page. So, until next time.